Hi, I'm I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the mountain ranges of the world. What a wonderful topic. Everybody loves mountains because they're so beautiful to look at, so pretty, especially if they have snow at the top. And so it's enjoyable to look at mountains. And of course, there's the mountain climbers, people with ambition, with some physical strength, and want to climb to the top of them of different mountains. And like the famous saying, the guy said, "Why did you climb the top of that mountain?" Because it was there. That's why people, mountains are real pretty. And now the only people who probably don't really enjoy them would be travelers who are trying to make their way and then have a tough time trying to find a mountain passes to travel through, which are also still pretty high. And also the engineers who've had to build roads and tunnels through mountains, by mountains, and for roads or railroads. So anyway, it's a wonderful, wonderful topic. Now, this shirt I'm wearing depicts a scene from the Black Hills in South Dakota, the United States. The hill will be kind of like a small mountains, a little bit not quite so high. And this is the famous scene at Mount Rushmore, carved into those Black Hills of the four presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. And the Mount Rushmore, the Black Hills, South Dakota. And then actually on this T-shirt it has the images of four famous American Indians: Chief Joseph, Crazy Horse, Geronimo, and Red Cloud. Now what we'll do today is we'll talk about different mountain ranges, and we'll kind of move around the world, starting with the most familiar ones, the most well-known mountains. The first would be the Himalayas, which are the highest peaks are in India, in Nepal and India. And of course, those who are ambitious to climb mountains, this is the place to go. And of course, Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world, which is the ultimate mountain climbers challenge. And then there's K2, which is, I think, the second highest, which is not a great name. Anyway, the Himalaya Mountains, beautiful, highest mountains in the world. Not the longest mountain range, but the highest. In fact, that area in north of that area in that region are a number of mountain ranges we'll talk about later. But also since India is a holy land, there's also a lot of stories of saints who've been living in the Himalayas, including Mahavatar Babaji and others. And there's sort of an attraction people have for mountains because of their beauty and power and their massive size. They're so big. So the Himalayas. Another mountain range is the Andes Mountains in South America, also very well known. And this is, I believe, the longest mountain range, a series of mountains, a very long line all the way from the Caribbean down to the end of the South American peninsula. And some of the high parts would be in Peru and in Bolivia. And of course, the old Inca Empire, which was like an Andean empire, the Andes Mountains, also very, very well known. Chile, the country of Chile, has a lot of, and down south, southern Andes. Wonderful, amazing mountains. Then there's the Rockies in the western United States and Canada, and the Rocky Mountains. And in Denver, a lot of people go to Colorado. It's a popular state in the U.S. for people to move in the Denver area because of the mountains, because they're so beautiful. And you have the Colorado Rockies, who are the baseball team playing in Denver, and the team named after the mountains. The Rockies go up in western U.S. and into Canada. I have a cousin, Brian Smallshaw. He loved. I remember my grandmother would quote him as talking about his beloved Rockies that he enjoyed. Hiking. People who are into camping, the great outdoors, go hiking in the mountains because it's so beautiful to look at mountains. And a lot of tourists enjoy going to mountains for skiing or just for camping and to enjoy, or even staying in a nice hotel. My parents had their wedding anniversary in 1950 in Banff and Lake Louise in the Canadian Rockies. And then we have the Appalachians, which are in the eastern part of the United States. And this is West Virginia is a very mountainous state. You get the term hillbilly, people who live in mountains, the mountains of Appalachia. And they were kind of derogatory about hillbillies, but I always thought they were nice, friendly people. A lot of coal mining in the Appalachian Mountains, at least in the old days. So this is the eastern part of the U.S., which was for early immigrants, Americans moving west, this was a challenge to move through the Appalachian Mountains west. Then the Alps. The Alps are in Europe, one of the most famous mountain ranges, because especially in Switzerland, where a lot of snow skiing, people enjoy going on vacation and skiing in the mountains. And I was fortunate to spend 2 years in Gstaad, Switzerland, as a teacher, and back in 1989 to 91. And every day I'd walk to work and walk to the school from my apartment, and loved looking at the mountains, looking at those beautiful Alps mountains with their snow. Actually, I have partly Swiss background, so that was my ancestry. The Alps Mountains, which actually go into Austria, Switzerland, Austria, France, northern Italy. That area, beautiful, very well known for a lot of tourists. A lot of tourists go to Switzerland to enjoy the Alps and to ski, or just to enjoy looking at the mountains. The Pyrenees, between Spain and France. Yeah, the kind of a nice border between those two countries. And the French, those who were not respectful of the Spanish, used to say that Africa begins at the Pyrenees. And actually, of course, Spain for centuries was under Muslim rule, which was the religion of North Africa. The Pyrenees. The Carpathians. This would be in southeastern Europe, centered in Romania, and that would include the Transylvanian Alps, which is where the fictional Dracula lived, Count Dracula, created by the Irish author Bram Stoker. The Apennines, which run up and down Italy, and made it kind of tough for Allied forces in the Second World War. The invasion down south and coming north, fighting the Germans, pushing them back up north. The Caucasus Mountains, really cool. Between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, and not a big area, but pretty high mountains. And this is where we get the word Caucasian. People who have a European background, or so-called white people. And the Caucasus Mountains. Now, if you were coming south from Russia, you'd have these barriers. You had these two, the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, and then the Caucasus Mountains in the middle. So take your pick, or maybe take a boat ride across one of those seas, or try your luck going through the Caucasus Mountains, which include these very small former Soviet republics like Georgia, where Joseph Stalin was from, and Armenia. Okay, the Ural Mountains, which divide Russia. Between the western part of Russia is European, and the eastern is Asian. The Ural Mountains, which are actually the Asian part is much larger. The Atlas Mountains in northwest Africa, in Morocco, pretty high. Supposedly I've heard they have snow skiing there. And it's one of the really cool things is the real anomaly, because you can go snow skiing in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco and look down on the Sahara Desert. Just imagine what a contrast between those two places. The Altai Mountains. Now we're going back toward the region of the Himalayas, and this would be in Russia, China, and Mongolia. Yeah, that whole region has some very high mountains, and kind of in central, sort of Central Asia. The Kunlun Mountains, again, this is in Tibet. That's what they call Tibet, the rooftop of the world. That whole area has a very high elevation, and the rooftop of the world. And supposedly, according to geologists, India was a big landmass that collided against the Asian landmass and pushed up all these various mountain ranges, most famous of which is the Himalayas. The Kunlun. The Hindu Kush in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a mountainous country, and they called these the Hindu Kush, meaning based on some language, Hindu killer. That's where the invaders would come into India through Afghanistan. And after the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, bin Laden reportedly was hiding in the Hindu Kush Mountains before he made his way to Pakistan. The Great Dividing Range in Australia, down on the East Coast. Not a very exciting name. The Southern Alps in New Zealand. Yeah, I made a recent video. My Aunt Lenore Zook Hughes, she was talking about how beautiful the Southern Alps are. According to her memory and her visit in New Zealand, southeast of Australia. The Pamirs in Tajikistan. Now we're back in that same area. This will be northwest of the Himalayas. These very high mountain ranges in that part of the world, Central Asia, or in India and western China. Tian Shan, and again, another, that same area, the Tian Shan in western China, another mountain range in that same area. The Alaska Range in Alaska, and you have the famous, what was called, the high peak there is Denali, and a lot of, hikers, mountain climbers, that's what they want to, they climb Denali, which for a while was known as Mount McKinley, and named after U.S. President William McKinley from Canton, Ohio. And now I was reading a book by James Michener. He was part of the group of people trying to get it back to its original name, Denali, which I believe that has been achieved. The Transantarctic Mountains. Go to Antarctica. You think, wow, the coldest continent, and there is this mountain range there, and the highest mountain there reportedly is Vinson Massif. That would be a real climb. Not sure how many people have done that. The Kjolen Mountains between Norway and Sweden and the Scandinavian peninsula. Also real cold. Yeah, definitely you could do some skiing there in northern Europe. The western and eastern Ghats of India. On each coast of India, you have the Ghats, and the west would be the western, and the eastern Ghats. On the Indian peninsula, the Taurus Mountains in Turkey. Taurus. That's my zodiac sign, Taurus Mountains. And I think Mount Ararat, where, hope I'm not wrong, where Noah's Ark came to rest. And according to the Bible, the Zagros Mountains of Iran. Yeah, Iran has this mountainous range, and they've had some pretty tough earthquakes over there. The Sierra Madre Mountains of Mexico, which in a sense I think are kind of connected to the Rocky Mountains, sort of that long chain of mountains. Sierra Madre's Mountains of Mexico. Drakensberg Mountains of South Africa. Yeah, and this is, you have the Atlas in the northwest, far northwest in Morocco, and the Drakensberg in the way down in the southeast. Yeah, you don't hear much about mountains in Africa, although they have some, not super high. The Ahagar Mountains in Algeria. Yeah, another Saharan-type mountain. Kilimanjaro, which is apparently a volcano in highest peak in Africa, in Kenya. And it's a volcano. Yeah, if you're a mountain climber and you're climbing a volcano is like an exploding mountain, and if you were going to climb Kilimanjaro, you'd want to make sure it wasn't about to erupt, or you might end up meeting your maker through a lava, being overwhelmed by lava. The Tibesti in the central Sahara. We think of the Sahara as this vast desert, but it's got some mountains there. Right in the middle of the Sahara, the Tibesti. The Chursky Mountains in Siberia, way far east. Yeah, again, this kind of makes Siberia as this vast, cold land area with mountains in the far east. The Japanese Alps, yeah, those shows how popular the Alps are. That name because you have the Southern Alps in New Zealand, and after the original ones in Europe, and now the Japanese Alps. And Mount Fuji, yeah, I hope I'm not wrong about this. Mount Fuji might be a part of that. Mount Fuji, the most photographed mountain in the world, because the Japanese love photography, and it's such a beautiful mountain. The Sierra Madre Mountains in the Philippines. Yeah, again, you can see the same name because they were both Spanish colonies, Mexico and the Philippines. That would be on Luzon Island, the large island in the north. The Pindus Mountains in Greece. Yeah, the ancient Greeks had a tough time because you have it's a country with a lot of islands, but also mountains. So this really limits you where you can grow food. Like backing up to the that's why these mountain people tend to be kind of serious and sober and hardworking, because it's tough to grow food in the mountains because you really need flat land. Although a lot of these places they have the terraced, which is a lot of work, where they're basically making flat areas, flattening like layers of a mountain to grow food, grow rice. They do that in northern Luzon and these rice terraces and other areas. And but generally speaking, yeah, like in the Philippines, the Ilocos who live in the mountainous region in the Sierra Madre in the Philippines, hardworking people, and the Swiss too. Swiss, very hardworking people. And I think any of the mountain, because life, they can't take it easy. You got to work hard to survive. And finally, the Scottish Highlands. in Scotland. This would be in the United Kingdom, up north of England, the Scottish Highlands. So that's the story of the mountains of the world. That's just a brief introduction. There's a lot more to learn. There's a lot of geology involved, and because this is the center of the Earth, which apparently is there's movement, and you have the tectonic plates and so forth, and it's all very. And of course, if you have volcanoes, that makes it even more interesting. So anyway, there's a lot more to talk about, but this is just an introduction. Fascinating topic. Wonderful to look at mountains. They're such parts of God's wondrous creation. And so anyway, thank you so much for watching. I wish you well in your interests in geography and history and so forth. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.